Today, we are going to crack open one of the biggest challenges in tech, making the incredibly complex and, let's be honest, often mysterious world of AI actually understandable. We're going on a little journey from what's known as a confusing black box to a clear white box, and you'll see why this shift is so much more than a technical upgrade. It's really all about building trust in the technology that's reshaping, well, everything.
Okay, so picture this. Your team has built this amazing, cutting-edge AI model. It's out there in the wild, making decisions, powering your products, talking to your customers. That's awesome. But here's the real question, the one that keeps people up at night. Do you really know what it's doing from one moment to the next? And even more important, do you know why?
And this, right here, gets to the heart of it all. On one side, you got the black box. It's totally opaque, its decisions can feel completely random and unpredictable, and that, my friends, is incredibly risky. But on the other side is the goal, where we want to be, the white box. A system that's transparent, that you can control, and that you can actually trust. The bridge that gets us from one side to the other? It's a practice called AI observability.
So what in the world is AI observability? Well, think of it as the power to get a deep, continuous look inside your live AI systems. This isn't some one-time checkup, it's an ongoing thing, and it's built on 4 key pillars. You have to constantly monitor performance, be able to explain decisions, detect when things are going off the rails, and audit for things like fairness.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, this sounds like something for the super technical folks, for the hardcore coders, right? But no way. The impact is so much broader. Of course, data scientists and ML engineers need it to do their jobs, but so do compliance officers who need to ensure fairness, product managers who have to understand how AI is affecting their users, and yeah, even executives who need to know if their massive AI investments are actually working. It really takes a village. So, let's start with the absolute foundation, the first 2 pillars. First, monitoring what your model is doing, and then, the really crucial part, explaining why it's doing it.
Just to help you wrap your head around the kind of scale we're talking about, a single active model can easily make, over 1 million predictions in just one day. Monitoring is all about logging and tracking every single one of those decisions so you can see the volume, the patterns, and the overall health of your system in real time.
But, just counting what happened isn't enough. Not even close. Imagine your model flags a credit card transaction as fraud. That's great, but how do you know it wasn't because of some weird, unrelated reason? How can you actually trust that decision, or explain it to an angry customer or a regulator? This is exactly where explainability comes in.
And getting that why is actually more straightforward than you might think. You basically just pick a prediction you're curious about, you choose a proven method, something like SHAP is really popular, and the system generates this crystal clear analysis that shows you exactly which factors push the decision one way or the other.
Now look at this. This is what a real explanation looks like, and it's just so clear. The model started with a baseline fraud risk of about 20%. Then, bam, a really high transaction amount pushed the risk way up. The weird time of day added a little more. But because it was a trusted merchant, the risk got nudged back down a bit. You end up with a final fraud score of 68%. It's instantly understandable. No black box here.
Okay, so we can see what our model's doing, and we know why. We're good, right? Well, not so fast. Because the world doesn't stand still. And this brings us to the critical safety net of AI, detecting drift and bias.
The scary thing about AI models is that a model that was an absolute genius on day 1 can become useless or even dangerous over time. This is called model drift. It happens because the real world changes, customer behavior, the economy, you name it. And the data your model is seeing in production no longer looks like the data it was trained on. Its performance just silently rots away.
This is where an observability platform becomes your smoke detector. This drift report is basically screaming at us that our fraud model is in trouble. Specifically, it's saying, hey, the transaction amount data looks really different now, and it's having a high severity impact. That's a super clear signal that you need to retrain the model before it starts making a ton of bad calls.
But then there's an even more serious problem, algorithmic bias. This is when a model, often completely by accident, learns to produce unfair, prejudiced results for certain groups of people based on things like their age or gender or race. And this isn't just a technical glitch, it's a massive ethical and legal landmine.
So for example, you might run a fairness audit on a loan approval model and, wow, see a chart just like this one. You don't have to be a data scientist to see that something is deeply wrong here. Men are getting approved 65% of the time, and women only 47%. That is a huge red flag.
And it's not just a gut feeling from looking at the chart. We have the cold, hard math to back it up. The system runs a statistical test, in this case one called demographic parity, and the result is a clear fail. The ratio is way below the industry-accepted fairness threshold of 0.8. This is basically mathematical proof that the model is biased, and you have to do something about it.
All right, so everything we've talked about so far also applies to the new kid on the block, the thing everyone's talking about, large language models, or LLMs. But man, these new models bring a whole new can of worms to the table, a whole new frontier for observability.
One of the first things people notice with LLMs, especially the people paying the bills, is the cost. Every single prompt you send in and every single word the model generates costs you money, measured in these things called tokens. So observability here means you've got to track this usage like a hawk to understand where your money is going.
But cost is just the beginning. We also have to ask, what is the LLM actually saying? To protect your users and your brand, you have to be constantly scanning what the model spits out for major safety risks. I'm talking about toxic language, threats, obscene stuff. You get the picture.
And then there's the privacy nightmare. LLMs can accidentally leak sensitive personal information, or PII. A really solid observability system will automatically catch and flag things like email addresses, phone numbers, or credit card numbers before they can cause a massive compliance headache. And for the really advanced stuff, like these systems that can answer questions based on your own company's documents, there's a new quality check we have to worry about: faithfulness. It answers a simple but vital question. Is the AI's response actually backed up by the info it was given, or is it just making things up? Trusting generative AI is impossible without this.
So let's bring this all home. We've kind of journeyed from this complex, opaque, black box problem to a clear, transparent solution. The future of AI, at least reliable and trustworthy AI, is an observable one.
And it all comes down to these 4 pillars. You have to continuously monitor performance. You absolutely need the ability to explain the why behind any decision. You must detect problems like drift and bias before they can cause real-world harm. And you have to be able to audit your systems to prove they are fair and compliant. That is how you get to the white box.
And that really leaves us with one final and I think crucial question. As these systems get woven deeper and deeper into our lives, making decisions about our money, our health, our jobs, if we can't look inside and explain how they work, can we ever truly, deeply trust them?